Good afternoon and welcome to Fort Bend Voter News. I'm Cameron Hill and I'm with and part of the Fort Bend Election News Electoral Board. Thank you so much for being with us. If you would introduce yourself and also tell people why you're running.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Dexter McCoy. I'm a
candidate for Fort Bend County Commissioner for Precinct 4. I'm a product of this community, and this community raised me. It's on the same streets in Mission Bend that I first learned how to drive, and it's at the Fort Bend Church in this community that as a kid I met the love of my life, my wife Chelsea. And this community prepared me for the opportunities of a lifetime, like serving in the Obama administration, coming back and serving as the youngest district administrator in Fort Bend ISD, and most recently as Chief of Staff to our Fort Bend County Judge. I'm running to bring bold new energy to our county government, to make sure that our county invests in what makes Fort Bend great. That's investing in our people, that's investing in the infrastructure, and in the technology that will drive us forward.
That's great. The question we'd like to ask, if you're elected, what will be your top priority?
That's a great question. So once I take office, one of the things that I hope that we do first and foremost is take care of jobs. We need to make sure that we build an economy here in Fort Bend County that is independent of that of Harris in Houston. Harris County in Houston. We need to build an economy that is driven by what drives the people here, and that's investing in technology, making sure that we're attracting advanced technology and manufacturing industry so that people who work in those fields here in our community don't have to drive out to Houston and into the woodlands. They can work and live and play right here in Fort Bend County. So I will make sure that we are building the infrastructure to make Fort Bend attractive to those industries, and also making sure that we are working with our educational institutions to make sure that we have a workforce prepared to take on those high-paying, high-growth jobs.
Sounds great. Mrs. Denise Joshua Fleming.
Good afternoon. Could you do me one favor? Could you say your name and the position you're running for?
Yep. Dexter L. McCoy for Fort Bend County Commissioner for Precinct 4.
Wonderful. You talked a little bit about economic growth. What exactly is your vision for for future economic growth and development in Fort Bend County?
Yeah, great question. So 50% of Fort Bend County is still undeveloped. And so that's a huge opportunity to be strategic in our growth. The average age of our population here in Fort Bend is about 36 years old, whereas members of Commissioner's Court, the average age is somewhere between 62 and 65 years old. What that means is, and why that's important, is because we need to have folks who are younger, who are part of the decision-making process, not just having a voice in advising, but actually helping to make decisions. Why? Because we're going to be the ones who are impacted by our economic decisions over the long term. And so I'm running to represent that voice. My vision of our economic development and growth here in Fort Bend County is a space where everyone has the ability to thrive, where they have access to work that maximizes their skill set, and where people, again, can stay here, spend their money here, so that it brings our sales tax revenue right here and keeps it here in Fort Bend County. And so I think that we need to work with developers to make sure that we are building the infrastructure for the jobs and for the companies that we need to attract here, so that they can be in proximity to where people live, and so that we're working with developers so not only are the jobs there, but also the homes that we're developing are attractive to people, and that all of that is within walking distance of where people would like to that they enjoy leisure. So fine dining, entertainment, all within the spaces where we live.
Sounds great. Alexandria Jack.
My question to you is, what are some of the biggest challenges facing Fort Bend County, and how would you address them?
Well, I think we have a lot to do in addressing. So I've had the great pleasure of every day. I spend my mornings calling residents, and then I spend my afternoons going and knocking on doors and talking to them. What I hear a lot of people talk about now is public safety. That includes not just crime, which is a huge thing that people are concerned with. And so we need to make sure that we are appropriately funding our sheriff's office, giving Sheriff Fagan the access to the resources that he needs and the manpower to be able to be proactive in our crime prevention, so that we're doing community building and not just responding when there's an issue. But I also believe that we have a lot to do in making our roads safer. At the beginning, I talked about how it's on some of the same streets in Mission Bend that I learned how to drive. Well, it's a shame that some of those streets are still filled with potholes, that some of the sidewalks that I used to ride my bike on and try to skate on are dilapidated and broken. We have to do more to invest in making our streets safer. So I think those are two issues that are top of mind. But I'll also add flood mitigation as another one. We have to invest more in expanding the cubic footage of the amount of space that we can store water in. We have not added excess capacity in Fort Bend since Harvey, but we have added more concrete. So what that means is that we probably would be in a worse predicament today than we were back then. So we have to work with the Army Corps of Engineers to make sure that we're getting our projects approved and work with federal agencies to make sure we're getting them funded.
Sounds great.
I do have another question. How do you feel about the transportation options currently available in Fort Bend County?
Much to be hoped for. I think that we have to work to make sure that we are building a more robust public transportation infrastructure. So working with Fort Bend Transit to make sure that they have the resources to be able to be a first option for people as opposed to the option just for people who are socioeconomically disadvantaged. Look, I lived on the East Coast when I worked in DC and went to school in Boston. I didn't have a car. I relied on public transportation. Most folks in that area did, and having a car was a luxury that most people weren't worried about having. And so I believe that we have to work with Fort Bend Transit and we have to work with Metro to make sure that we have coverage here and that it's more than just a park and ride, but folks can have walkable access to get to a bus or light rail and to be able to take them to where they need to go. And I'll share this as well. I have a vision for a community where we're building tourist attractions around our public transportation so that people can go do things like shop and dine and not have to worry about finding parking. And people have that access right here in Fort Bend.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you would look into the camera and tell the voters why you.
So at the end of the day, in this community that raised me, that invested so much in making me the man that I am today, I believe we've dealt with reluctant leadership that hasn't shown up on our behalf. I want to bring bold new energy to help fuel Fort Bend's future and move us forward. And I believe I'm that candidate because not only have I exhibited through my experiences that I am that candidate, but also to my wife and I, we're invested here in Fort Bend over the long term. I'm proud of the things that I was able to do when I served as the chief of staff to our county judge, like bringing internet access to parts of our community that never had it, making historic investments in nonprofit organizations. I'm also proud to have successfully fought for the recognition of Juneteenth as a paid county holiday right here in Fort Bend County. This is important. This is an important election, and it's the question of whether or not we're satisfied with what we have. And so if you, like me, believe that we deserve more, that we deserve better, I'm asking you to vote Dexter McCoy for Fort Bend County Commissioner for Precinct 4. To learn more about me and why I'm running, and also, too, to find out how you can become part of our movement, go to dextermccoy.com. Again, that's Dexter McCoy for Fort Bend County Commissioner for Precinct 4. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.